Jack, what a Monday Night Raw we had. We had some good, we had some bad, we had some really ugly, but overall, I think WWE did us justice for Monday Night Raw coming from Green Bay, Wisconsin. What was your overall first thoughts?
Well, I know you hated Raw 2 weeks ago. I know you loved it last week. We got something kind of in the middle tonight.
Yeah.
We got big moments, but it wasn't last week, but it also wasn't 2 weeks ago. I thought Green Bay, Wisconsin got a good mix. I think every single segment and story that they told tonight served its purpose. I mean, they had the number one contender, or not number one contender, but the king and queen of the ring fatal four-way matches, which I thought, went accordingly.
Yep.
Jey Uso gets the big win in the main event. Asuka gets the big win to kick off the show, which is what we expected.
Yep.
They kind of use it to protect everybody. Obviously, Raquel Rodriguez takes the spill there because of Rhea Ripley's interference. But Asuka looks strong, and Raquel Rodriguez doesn't look weak because she kind of got screwed. And then on the back half, I really wasn't thinking about Seth Rollins. I thought Seth Rollins and his crew were going to get the night off, honestly. I mean, last week they had the big segment with Cena and Punk. This week, you kind of just saw, I mean, obviously Gunther's got his hands full, and that's probably the part where you were talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm assuming that's what you meant by the ugly part, was the Gunther segment, because we got what we kind of expected that we were going to get.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody really expected it to really happen until his music hit, and they're all like, oh, Bill's back. Bill Goldberg is here. But it's what we're getting. It was good. It was good. It was bad. It was ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, what more can you say? But I thought the ending was much stronger than I anticipated, because I thought we were just going to get a clean win and everybody was going to yeet the crap out of themselves in Wisconsin. But we got to see an intense face-off between two guys that we're obviously going to see feud at some point in 2025, and that's Cody Rhodes and Seth frickin' Rollins. So all in all, great Monday Night Raw in my opinion.
Yeah, so the good, the bad, and the ugly is, for me, the good was definitely the finish. You've kind of learned over the last month and a bit that I am a fan of overall overbooked chaos, and that is exactly what we got at the end of this Monday Night Raw, which I'm a huge fan of. I don't care if half of it kind of still doesn't make sense with some of the storylines. I understand Cody is in the feud with Jey Uso starting next week, but it goes back to our conversation the other day about the draft meaning absolutely nothing at this point with how much wrestlers jump from brand to brand. It's just, why do we even have a brand split at this point? So I really enjoyed that part of it. The bad was actually the Goldberg segment for me. Like I was just like, okay, we know he's here. Like, one, the noticeable left leg limp on the way to the ring. He gets to the ring. He's already blown up just before he even starts talking. And then finally, like, it's just, I said it at the end of my stream. I think we would have got a bigger pop for Vince McMahon than getting a pop for Goldberg. Like, the crowd...
Dude, if No Chance in Hell hit, dude, everybody's losing their minds.
Exactly.
Come on, I don't care what he's done. I don't, like, obviously he's not a good guy.
No.
But like, if his music hit, dude, that's the biggest return yet to be told in pro wrestling today, is him and Brock Lesnar.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, like, I don't think WWE expected Goldberg to get as dull of a reaction as they did. And I'll say, like, my chats were flying with the not so positive conversation. Let's just say that. And then the ugly, I just want to touch on it quickly just because I want to give my best wishes. The ugly was the injury to Liv Morgan. That looked as simple as it looked. Like, if you watched it back in slow-mo, like they finally showed it on the Canadian channel. I don't know if they showed it in the US, but like, it popped and it looked gross. And I feel bad for Liv Morgan because she has been on the run of a lifetime, I think. And I really think she's been doing great for the women's division overall. And I just feel so bad that this is going to be something that takes her out for a couple of weeks. Because I know they probably had some really big plans for her and potentially Nikki Bella going into Women's Evolution. Hopefully it can heal up. Hopefully it's only slightly dislocated. But I know they had plans for Liv Morgan, which is always a good thing because Liv Morgan, I think, is best for the women's division. So that's my good, bad, and ugly of the show. But overall, like I said, it was a good show in general. We had a great women's fatal four-way. And the really nice thing I loved about the women's fatal four-way is we had 4 different styles in the match. We had Asuka, who's very strong style. We had Stephanie Vaquer, very luchador, CMML style. We had Raquel, the big bruiser. And then we had Ivy Nile, who I think really impressed tonight in her showing in this match. Again, I don't know how much was shown for the US fans, but during the commercial breaks, Ivy Nile was dominating the entire match. And some of the US didn't get to see it, but for everyone else, it was just Ivy Nile going crazy on everyone. I think she was definitely the MVP of the match, and her stock just continues to grow. So the 4 different dynamics in this match, I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head. You know, like Asuka, I think had to win. It was her big return.
Yeah.
Stephanie had to look great because they've booked her to look great, even though she hasn't won the big match. She didn't win Money in the Bank, but she looked great. You know, she didn't win tonight's Fatal 4-Way, but she looked great, and they're setting her up for success down the line. And you're right, Niall looked incredible tonight. And again, that was her job to look great in a scenario where you're not necessarily going to get the win, but you're going to get the exposure. And this is what you make out of that exposure. That was a win-win-win-win for everybody involved. And obviously Asuka gets the big win. I guess it's not a win for Raquel Rodriguez in a sense, right? She is kind of embroiled in this feud because of Liv Morgan with Rhea Ripley.
Yep.
But she didn't necessarily look weak tonight because of that loss, because Rhea Ripley got involved, and because Rhea Ripley gave her that rub at the end to screw her and throw her back in the ring and, you know, feed her to Asuka at the end. So to me, it was a win-win-win-win.
And then we go into the Bayley Becky segment. That segment, I think, stole the show. It was a perfect storm of Bayley's passion, the history between the two women when it comes to, you know, the 4 horsewomen, and really coming out of the 4 horsewomen, Bayley said something. Who would have expected it to be us? Who would have expected it to be us two that really stand alone out of the 4 that came out of there? Yes, Charlotte's been given all the opportunities. Sasha's moved on and done what she's done over in AEW and on the independent scene, but it's really Bayley and Becky who have really established themselves as leaders of the locker room in the women's division and kind of the ones coming out of that original NXT era. And the argument you can say is it almost felt real, that promo segment. And when it feels real and when it feels personal, I think WWE tells the best stories. And if you just go to even how Becky worked her way in by stealing Seth's clothes once again and coming out in full Chicago gear in Green Bay, which I thought was a nice little touch on the whole segment, but like Becky continued to feed off the fans, and just the knife was stuck in, and everything she did was just an extra twist to the fans and to Bayley. So she was taking double shots, and it was great. And then the final little slap and punch at the end, that stuff looked heated. Like, it looked shoot real. So when it looks real, I'm a big fan of it.
It almost looked as if Becky was supposed to slap her and then slide out of the ring, but she missed the slap. Mm-hmm. So Bayley on the run was like, well, that looked bad, so I'm just going to pop you, and we're just going to reverse what we were supposed to do. That's kind of what it looked like to me. But you're right in the fact that it's better when it's personal, but it's only better when it's personal when the two people in the ring know each other as well as Becky and Bayley know each other. Like, those two are really good friends behind the scenes. And for them to come back and have this moment together when out of the, I hate calling them this, but the 4 horsewomen, it doesn't make sense at all. It only made sense because Charlotte's Ric Flair's daughter, I guess. But like they really were the 4 pioneers of the women's, revolution when that whole thing started, from Stephanie McMahon announcing all of them on Raw 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like they looked at Sasha and they looked at Charlotte. Becky and Bayley were kind of like just the other 2 girls in that scenario.
Yep.
And then Becky becomes the man. Bayley goes on multiple runs as a world champion, but really still didn't get that like huge main event push. And now we see them in the mid-card with the Women's Intercontinental Championship, because they have this story where Bayley got taken out at WrestleMania by Becky Lynch. She goes on to win the tag titles with Lyra Valkyria. And now we have this whole cesspool of feelings between Becky Lynch, Lyra Valkyria, and Bayley, because you saw the backstage segment between Bayley and Lyra. Got heated there for a second as well. But you're right. When it's personal, it's better. I like the touch of, I can only assume that was Seth Rollins' Bears jacket that Becky Lynch came out wearing. And she made it personal. I don't think it was like red hot when Bayley was just talking about Becky before she got out there. I thought she was struggling a little bit, in my opinion. But then Becky came out and they had great, barbs traded back and forth. I mean, we saw how personal it got with Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton during WrestleMania. I don't think that was a great build. I don't think anybody would disagree with me on that. And that felt personal, but it felt awkward. It felt a little too personal between 2 people that didn't know each other that well.
Exactly.
Bayley and Becky know each other well. Bayley and Becky know what they're doing, and they know how they can carry this story leading into SummerSlam, which now I'm going to predict right now that it's going to be a triple threat for the Intercontinental title between Becky, Bayley, and Lyra Valkyria at some point. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with it, but I don't think I want it. I would rather have it be Becky Bayley and we see maybe a Lyra Valkyria turn, and then we get the triple threat at, say, Clash at the Castle in Paris. I think the feud between Becky and Bayley is big enough to carry a main event spot or an opening spot for a 2-night SummerSlam main event. Like you either open the show or close the show. And I think these 2 women deserve, with how we could potentially build this feud throughout the entire summer, this is deserving of a main spot at SummerSlam. That's my opinion on this feud. I think it's important enough that they can do it themselves. And that's not taking anything.
I think the crowd reaction is going to have to be like the decider in that, in my opinion. I think on paper, Bayley and Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Championship, that carries itself. I agree with you. But the crowd has to accept it and react to it.
No, absolutely. So
that'll be interesting to see.
But I think the crowd, like, look where we are next week. We're in Cincinnati next week for Monday Night Raw. Cincinnati's,
I think Columbus, right?
Columbus or. No, it's
we can't get the city wrong again.
It's Cincinnati,
Steve. We can't do it again.
It's Cincinnati because my chat mentioned that Jade Cargill's husband will be there because he plays for the Cincinnati Reds.
But didn't Becky say, "I'll see you in Columbus"?
Maybe. Let us know in the comments. We might have messed this up again. We're apparently bad with cities. But yeah, so next week we've got Ohio, which is always a good hot city. I'm not too sure where we are. Well, then we're in Saudi. And then when we coming back from Saudi, they normally come back from the Saudi events and hit the East Coast. So we could see something like Virginia or the Carolinas. Very hot crowds down that way. So this could be a good build going into Evolution. And that's the one thing we keep forgetting about is like the women's Evolution PLE is only a month away after next week. So
3 weeks from Saturday.
3 weeks from Saturday. And we've got Saturday night's main event. Where's that going to fit? So there's just that's another thing that we could get into in a whole video is we are so overbooked with major events on the weekends going through the summer this year that it's almost like, what do we save for SummerSlam? And I think this is one that we do save for SummerSlam. I really do.
Well, I mean, I think it's happening next week. It's Bayley versus Becky for the Intercontinental Championship on Raw. So we'll see how it ends.
Could be a run-in, something like that. I want to get to, before we get to the main event and how we called basically Jey Uso qualifying, I want to talk about a backstage segment that I think the collective WWE universe has been waiting for a very long time, and we finally got a direction officially for Karrion Kross. We didn't get the match, but we finally had someone say, Kross, you're always in the back. Why don't you do something out there in the ring? And that was opened up by Sami Zayn after finally getting pushed over and over week after week by Karrion Kross. We finally have direction for Karrion Kross. My question to you, Jack, is this the right direction for Karrion Kross?
Is it the right direction? Sure. I mean, I would take a match in the ring over vignettes and trash talking people backstage every single week if that was where I was at on the card.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as of last week, there's discussions of his contract ending and WWE not having serious conversations with him about renewing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, will we see Karrion Kross versus Sami Zayn in a ring live on a WWE show? I truly don't know. It was nice to get the pop and the reaction that it got, and maybe that's what WWE was hoping to get out of that segment, to get maybe a pop from the crowd to see if they'd be interested in that, because we truly don't know what's going on behind the scenes with Karrion Kross and his future with the company. So, yeah, I'd love to see it. I think this could lead to potentially my predictions for King of the Ring getting all the way turned around.
Yep.
Because I didn't think Seth Rollins was going to get involved in Jey Uso's business, which evidently now he's involved in Cody Rhodes' business. So that could really screw up next week's match. And now Karrion Kross all of a sudden has motive to screw with Sami Zayn. So who really knows who's going to win King of the Ring at this point? I kind of don't know. I thought we were probably going to get Cody versus Sami in Saudi Arabia, but now I really don't know what we're going to get.
It's such a coin toss now, like, and as we discussed on a video that's probably dropping later on this week, the whole Sami going right through to the final to be in Saudi Arabia. At this point, like, if you're going to push that hint that Karrion Kross is there, he could cost Sami Zayn next week. And it could be Cody versus Randy in the main event.
I think you do Randy versus Jey almost at this point.
At this point,
because you know that Seth Rollins and his crew is going to interfere in that Jey Cody match next week. It's going to be like a 5-star classic all the way to the end, and we're going to see some screwy finish. Maybe we see an unadvertised John Cena appearance to take out Cody Rhodes, because I think as much as Cody Rhodes is on a roll right now, Jey Uso going to sleep by Gunther 2 weeks ago and then taking a pin from Cody Rhodes, some might say that might not hurt him. I personally think 2 losses in 3 weeks hurts Jey Uso.
Very much so.
Why do that when you can elevate Jey Uso after a big loss by pinning the biggest babyface in the company in maybe a screwy way because it wasn't fair towards the end? But you could still book Jey Uso to beat Cody Rhodes in a big moment on Monday Night Raw. And then, again, you preserve those 2 big matches that we talked about. We're not getting Sami versus Jey, in my opinion. I still don't want to see Randy versus Cody too early. I want that to be a blood feud. Maybe you pay this off by things getting screwy on both ends, and you have Randy versus Jey. And then maybe Jey gets a big win on Randy, and then that just sets up the rematch between Jey and Gunther at SummerSlam.
We have so many storylines that are going into Saudi Arabia. It finally makes one of the Saudi events feel a lot more important than they have felt over time. Like, it's finally like it's almost like that spider web of trying to figure out who the serial killer is up on the board for a police officer. We have that web right now that anything could go anywhere. And as fans and lovers of what pro wrestling is, and especially WWE, we are spoiled for choices right now. And I think a lot of fans need to really sit there and be like, let's just enjoy it. Like, you and I can sit here, analyze, and post videos for everyone else, but I'll tell you right now, man, I'm happy to sit back and enjoy as well. I just caught a rumor. Apparently on the show, they said Liv Morgan dislocated her shoulder, but Twitter is saying her elbow, which is very interesting. I hope it's not a double, like 2 different spots. Because a
double entendre. That would, and you're right, it is a big deal because Liv Morgan's been on the run of a lifetime.
Yeah.
But if it's not like 6 months, she's fine.
Yeah.
She's gonna come back, she's gonna receive a big pop. No one's gonna forget about what Liv Morgan's been able to do. The timing kind of sucks because you're right, she got the big rub with the attack on Nikki Bella last week, and she's gonna be primed and ready for another world title run at some point. After she drops the tag team titles. But like, it's I don't think this hurts her. If anything, it elevates her story with the Judgment Day, even with Roxanne Perez getting involved and Finn Balor playing the devil on both sides. You know, it plays in. Remember when Rhea Ripley a year ago got hurt? It only elevated the Judgment Day story. We're only seeing it one more time.
A lot of people in the chat were saying this still could actually be a work. The way WWE has been doing things, this could actually be a work, and they are telling the exact same story they told with Rhea Ripley last year, running into SummerSlam. It's almost word for word if you were to write it down on a page. You know, the separated shoulder, out for a couple of weeks, back, maybe pulls something at SummerSlam, and then Dom leaves Liv a year later and goes with Roxanne. You never know. And that's another thing. I'm glad you brought that up before we get to the end here. The Judgment Day stuff is just getting better and better. My only question to you is, and I asked this on my stream, is this what we might see as the final run for the Judgment Day, with Finn being the little puppet master? Or can Judgment Day somehow survive with another overhaul of talent, with the likes of Finn Balor being the edge of the group, with Roxanne Perez coming in potentially after SummerSlam, maybe reaching down to NXT and pulling maybe an Izzy Dame or a Tatum Paxley to come up and play one of those dark personas, and then another male figure that's kind of got that dark persona as well to come in and kind of work a new version of the Judgment Day and have it this continued rolling filter faction that helps build talent. It's done wonders for Damian Priest. It did wonders for Rhea Ripley, and it's done wonders for Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan. Could this be what we're seeing with Judgment Day moving forward?
Well, I think they're eventually telling the story of Finn Balor once again regaining control of a group. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be the Judgment Day moving forward, because I think after Dom and Liv leave, I feel like it's over, man. I feel like if you have Finn Balor bring in just new people and call it the Judgment Day, it's like, okay, they're getting the rub that they're a part of the Judgment Day, but it's not really the Judgment Day. I mean, the Judgment Day was Adam Copeland's creation when it was Edge, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley. And then they brought in Finn Balor, and then the shocking turn so early in that story.
So early.
I believe at the time Randy Orton got hurt and Edge was the utility guy, and they're like, all right, we got to turn you babyface because we got no one else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way things were booked under Vince McMahon. I don't know if they would have booked it that way under Paul Levesque and Lee Fitting, but that's how they booked it then. Then you have Finn, you have Damian, you have Rhea, and then they bring in Dom after Dom turns on them, which you were there at Clash of the Castle. And then that was the evolution of Dominic Mysterio. We literally saw him get more evil the more his mullet grew out during that 2022 to 2024 period, right? Like, he literally was like the baby face, baby look. Like, when I don't say baby face as in he was a good guy with his dad. He literally was just the baby face Dominic Mysterio, Rey Mysterio's son. And then he became Dirty Dominic Mysterio. And then that's when the Judgment Day really got hot. Rhea wins the Women's Championship from Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 39. Finn, though he doesn't win, has the huge Hell in a Cell match with Edge. Damian Priest wins Money in the Bank. He finally gets his rub. He ends up winning the world title. Dominic Mysterio gets his big moment pinning Balor for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 41, which was kind of unexpected to me. That was one of the highlights of WrestleMania for sure in Vegas. And I feel like you've gotten to the point where everybody's been elevated, except, honestly, maybe Finn Balor. I feel like Finn Balor's characters run very stale as of recently. So if he does end up having another big turn, because he is manipulating the story right now, I think he forms a group with Roxanne Perez and maybe a few people from NXT, like you said, but I don't think it'll be the Judgment Day necessarily. I think he needs a fresh coat of paint moving forward.
Fair enough.
To tell a story, not only for the people that he's going to be elevating, because that's going to be his job as the veteran to elevate the young talent.
Yeah.
But he's also got to put a fresh coat of paint on himself to be interesting, in my opinion.
No, fair enough. I'm still of the mindset that it could be one of those filter factions where people could potentially grow through it. Maybe not the Judgment Day, maybe a fresh coat of paint, like you said. But you did mention almost everyone got elevated. We got to talk about we can't forget about Carlito just getting completely released. But the PlayStation did get returned.
Dude, R-Truth got elevated by the Judgment Day. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. But we haven't talked about JD McDonough either. But he elevates himself every time he's out there performing. That match against AJ Styles today, we're not going to get too much into it, but I just think JD once again in the ring with a veteran like AJ Styles made himself look good and made AJ look even more superior. So that's my last point. I thought Raw was great. I'm going to rank it probably last week. I think I said 8.5 out of 10. I'm going to give it a solid 7 this week. Like you said, 2 weeks ago, I hated Raw. Last week, I loved Raw. This week, I'm going to find that in between. I'm going to go with a 7 out of 10 tonight.
Yeah, I'll go 7.5, only because you're right. It didn't have a lot of great moments, like Liv Morgan getting hurt. If she truly is hurt, that's a low moment. From a fan perspective and a creative standpoint, Bill Goldberg getting one last match. I guess it's in his deal that he gets a retirement match. I feel like you're right. He was gassed by the time he got to the ring, which is okay, man. In your late 50s, you should be gassed.
Yeah,
like there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
But like we loved you in your prime. Like, we don't want to see you get hurt now against one of the top performers in the business in Gunther. No one really wants to see it, even if he is in tremendous shape. Like, you're probably in tremendous shape for a 58-year-old, but like, you're not in tremendous shape for like people in their prime. So like,
yeah,
we don't necessarily want to see it, but we're going to get it regardless. He's going to have his retirement match. Kudos to him. That was the bad. The ugly was Liv Morgan, and the good and the great was Jey Uso in the main event. Asuka returning, winning that fatal 4-way. Queen of the Ring match. Like, there were a lot of highs. AJ Styles versus JD McDonough, like you said. There were some good moments on this Raw. Karrion Kross hopefully getting direction in that backstage promo with Sami Zayn. Zayn versus Kross sounds good to me. It's been a long time coming for him. So we got a lot of answers. We got a big setup to next week's Raw between Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes with the involvement of Seth Rollins' group. We got a Women's Intercontinental Championship match between Becky Lynch and Bayley. It's getting good, Steve. It's getting good.
Does it finally feel like we're on the road to SummerSlam, even though we've got everything else?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the point of Night of Champions and King and Queen of the Ring. Yeah. It's basically what Elimination Chamber is to WrestleMania. It sets up the big matches. So it feels real.
I'm gonna say this to end it off. I'm actually more excited for the road to SummerSlam right now than I was for the road to WrestleMania. So that's where I'm gonna end it. Jack, plug yourself, and we've got a lot more videos coming this week, but give us your socials.
All right, all my heels out there. Are you ready? At Jack O'Hara TV on Instagram, at Heel TV on TikTok, at Jack O'Hara TV on YouTube. Come subscribe. Come talk some shit. I love it. I love the boos. I love the cheers. Let's go.
All right, guys. And with that, like always, be good people. See you tomorrow.